In the headlines, EDSA once again became the stage of history. Protesters flood the streets demanding an end to corruption and the resignation of the country's top leaders. Nature's wrath leaves devastation. Typhoon Mirasol and Super Typhoon Nando batter homes, forcing thousands to evacuate across northern Luzon. From Japan, our countrymen cry foul. Filipino workers slum worsening corruption back home, saying it's destroying trust in government. In Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum calls Gaza violence genocide and demands global recognition of Palestine. A new chapter for Japan. The ruling party names 5 contenders in the race to replace Prime Minister Ishiba. France takes a bold step. Paris joins a wave of nations in recognizing Palestinian statehood. Turbulence in Peru. Thousands of Gen Z protesters fill Lima, rejecting pension reforms they say favor the rich. And in showbiz, even superheroes aren't invincible. Spider-Man star Tom Holland steps away from filming after a serious on-set injury. I'm Prince Tripoli. Newsline World starts now. The cries of thousands of protesters echoed in EDSA on the 53rd anniversary of the declaration of martial law by Marcos Sr. Their call, hold corrupt officials accountable, and for President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and House Speaker Martin Romualdez to step down. Margot Gonzalez has the story.
As early as 6 o'clock Sunday morning, the group of former CPP, NPA, NDF cadre Eric was already positioned in EDSA for the massive protest action against corruption. Their demand, Bongbong Marcos and Martin Romualdez to step down from office. This comes amid severe corruption exposed in the investigation into flood control projects after Metro Manila was submerged last month due to heavy flooding.
Marcos resign! Marcos resign! Marcos resign!
There will be no justice, no matter how many times maglalo yung mga tao, kung hindi natin ipanawagan ang paglayas sa poder at kapangyarihan ni Marcos at Romualdez, singilin at panagutin sila, baliwala ang mga rally. The rally should be pointed to accountability of Marcos. Kaya po ang grupo na Bangon Sambayanan at Marcos Alis dyan ay nananawagan ng Occupy EDSA. Hindi sa kung ano paman, kung hindi para bigkisin ang pinakamalawak na pagtutol ng mamamayan sa isyu ng korupsyon at pandarambong at singilin si Marcos at si Romualdez at papanagutin sa kanilang mga krimen.
Pero anong karakter sa bahagi nila PBM, Martin Romualdez, na despite ng itong mga protesto natin, baka hindi naman sila mag-resign sa pwesto?
Dahil walang hiya talaga sila. Ang taong walang hiya kagaya ni Marcos at Romualdez, mabigat po ang pag-resign sapagkat kapito po at nakikinabang sa poder at pundo ng bayan. Subalit pupersahin siya ng mamamayan. Lalo na kung manindigan ng Armed Forces of the Philippines at ang Philippine National Police to withdraw support.
72-year-old Tess Velos, who is in a wheelchair, also joined the protest despite her condition. Like Eric, she was also once part of the rebel movement.
We need to fight and stand no matter what our condition is. Hindi na ako, ayaw ko na nang nasa bahay lang na nakikinig sa social media. Marami akong mga kaibigan na social media ko, ka-message ko, na tinatanong kung saan ako pupunta. Sabi ko kung saan nandun may mga sign ng BBM resign or Marcos resign. Because we need to make a very clear stand. Sino-sino talaga ang mga magnanakaw ng bayan.
Some from the Muslim community also joined the rally, saying part of their protest was against alleged harassment to Vice President Sara Duterte. They too called for the resignation of the president.
Nakikisa po kami sa panawagan na itigil na po yung corruption sa atin. Kasi talagang kaya hindi umano yung ekonomiya natin dahil sa kakurakutan ng iba. So kami po ay nakikisa nananawagan na itigil na po yung corruption.
Tama na! Mag-resign ka na, PBL!
By past 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a number of rallies in EDSA had swelled. The northbound lane of EDSA was no longer passable to vehicles. No vehicles were passing through the flyover either because of the protest. EDSA was filled with various cries of Filipinos fed up with corruption. Those dressed as Darna and Spider-Man also did not miss the event, along with several personalities and artists who came to show support. By around 5 o'clock, the road was reopened, but was met by a noise barrage from motorists. Until nightfall, the protest did not subside. Some well-known personalities gave their statements, including political vloggers known as the Banateros.
Nakakilabot dahil iba't ibang uri ng tao, ibang uri ng Pinoy, may mayaman, may mahirap, may nakikita pa nga tayong artista dito na nakikisa para panagutin ang mga korap na politiko sa ating gobyerno. Ito na ang tamang pagkakataon para magsama-sama tayo. Walang kulay, magsama-sama tayo bilang isang Pilipino. Panagutin ang tunay na may sala. Hindi yung pinapanawagan na wala namang kinalaman pero dinadawit nila. Kitang-kita po natin, kilala natin kung sino ang tunay na may sala. Huwag po tayo magbulag-bulagan. Huwag natin ilihis ang istorya. Magsama-sama tayo, mga kababayang Pilipino. Tapusin na natin ang kalokohan ito.
Yung tagumpay, malapit na po. Huwag na po tayong bibitaw.
Sobrang nakakagalak po ngayon dahil talagang mararamdaman mo yung pagkakaisa ng bawat Pilipino ngayon. Kaya dyan sa mga kababayan ko, sa mga kababayan natin, samahan nyo pa kami dito. Ito na yung simula para paalisin ang mga korap sa ating gobyerno.
Political vlogger Boss Dada also visited Bacolod for a prayer rally along with a call to free former President Rodrigo Duterte from the hands of foreigners in The Hague, Netherlands.
Naniniwala ba kayo na prayers can move mountains? Na kapag marami tayong sabay-sabay na nagdadasal, mahaba man yung dasalan, nagkakatotoo yung ating mga idinadasal sa Panginoon. Alam po ba ninyo na gumalaw ang langit? Langit mismo, Diyos mismo, ang nagbisto sa katiwalian ng gobyerno na ito. Natatandaan ninyo, ipinagyabang niya sa kanyang SONA. Pinagyabang ni Marcos sa kanyang SONA yung flood control projects niya na 5,500 daw. Kinaumagahan, anong nangyari? Bumaha. Nabisto ng mga Pilipino yung mga pagnanakaw nila sa flood control projects pa lang. Sabi ng spokesperson ng Malacanang na hindi daw natin dapat pinagre-resign si Bongbong Marcos dahil siya daw ang nagsiwalat ng katiwalaan patungkol sa flood control project. Naniniwala ba kayo doon?
For God and the beloved Philippines, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
A political analyst gave an assessment on the growing presence of the middle class in recent protests against corruption. MJ Mondiha reports.
This was the scene at EDSA on Sunday, September 21st, at the height of the National Day of Protest. The EDSA shrine in Ortigas was paralyzed, as well as a northbound lane near the EDSA People Power Monument. Noticeable at the rally was the presence of those from the middle class. Many celebrities also joined the protest, which stemmed from corruption issues involving flood control projects under the Marcos Jr. administration. According to political analyst Professor Eric De Torres, the participation of the middle class earners in the protest is crucial.
At kitang-kita po natin, ito yung himagsik ng saloobin ng mga middle class po na kung saan sila po ang talagang lumalaban ng parehas at lumalaban ng nasakripisyo para sa kanilang pamilya.
A middle-class family typically earns 25,000 pesos to 145,000 pesos per month, depending on family size and the cost of living. There are often those with regular jobs, small businesses, or professionals with enough income to live decently, but not that exists to be considered wealthy.
Panahon na rin din po na tignan, bigyan din ng pagkalinga yung ating pong mga middle class.
Approximately 40% of the Philippine population are middle-class earners, while 58.4% belong to the low-income class, and only 1.4% are high-income class. According to the Torres, the middle class has no issue with paying taxes, even if they're not included in government dole-out programs or subsidies. They also rarely join protest actions as they prioritize work and livelihood. This makes their presence in the recent EDSA movement significant.
Makita lang po natin na napupunta sa maayos yung atin pong ibinabayad na dahil pinagsisikapan po natin yan eh. Nagsusumikap po kami na magturo at bawat pagtuturo ng additional subject po namin, tinataktan po kami ng malaki. Pero yung frustration na halimbawa po mula sa bahay ninyo o papunta sa eskwelahan na tinuturoan niyo o kahit saan man pong trabaho na kung saan mula sa bahay ninyo papunta doon, makita mo man lamang na maganda yung daan, gumagana yung yung pasilidad ng pampublikong transportasyon, may kaayusan. Ito ay testimonya na para sa mga middle class na gumagana o may pinatutunguhan yung buwis natin.
Professor De Torres expects the protests to continue as long as no one is held accountable for corruption. He also anticipates more middle-class earners joining demonstrations in the future.
Alam nyo, isa ho sa mga napakagandang trait at napakahusay na trait ng mga Pilipino yung pagiging matiisin natin, yung resiliency natin. Pero may hangganan po yung resiliency din natin. May hangganan din po ito at tingin ko, we deserve better. We deserve more.
For Ganmabel of Philippines, MJ Mondeha, SMNA News.
Where was President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as massive anti-corruption protests erupted on Sunday? Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin answered this question while also voicing the palace's dismay over the violence that broke out in Mendiola and Ayala Bridge. Jason Rubrico reports.
Demonstrators clashed with riot police, setting banners and posters on fire, while officers responded with tear gas and pellet shots. Bystanders were also caught in the chaos.
Solamente por pasar por el lado de los policías me empezaron a corretear. Obviamente me puse yo, hice fuerza y me empezaron a dar con perdigones, empezaron a disparar, lacrimógenas, todo.
The law requires all Peruvians over 18 to enroll either in the Office of Pension Normalization or in a private pension fund administrator. Critics argued the measure burdens workers in a country where more than 70% of employment is informal. Protesters accused the government and Congress of siding with big business at the expense of ordinary citizens.
El pueblo, de forma democrática y pacífica, viene a manifestarse desde todo el país por el centro de la ciudad y la policía solo responde con bombas, con gases lacrimógenos y sin ningún sentido de común, porque hay niños, hay gente que simplemente está transitando, señores de la tercera edad, y ellos pues se dedican a de forma matonesca reprimir con toda la violencia que ha caracterizado a este gobierno que se ha llevado tantas vidas.
Gen Z makes up 21% of Peru's population, and their mobilization is becoming a driving force in the country's growing discontent with President Dina Boluarte's government. Reporting for Newsline World, I am Jason Rubrico, SM9 News.
Overseas Filipino workers in Japan are voicing their deep frustration and disappointment over the persistent corruption in the Philippines. SMNI Japan's Hector Kikozaki reports.
SMNI News spoke with overseas Filipino workers here in Japan to hear their thoughts on the worsening corruption in the Philippine government. Here's what they had to say. Thousands of Filipinos attended two major gatherings in Tokyo and Nagoya, Japan, led by Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte. The events were dubbed Pagtitipo ng Pagkakaisa para kay Tatay Digong or Unity Gathering for Tatay Digong. At these gatherings, many OFWs expressed serious concern and frustration over the deepening corruption back home, saying it directly affects the welfare and livelihood of their families left in the Philippines.
Kahit gagong tao, aware na aware sa lahat ng mga korupsyon na nangyari ngayon sa Pilipinas. Kahit siguro mga tanga, alam nila yung mga pangyayari sa sobrang dami ng naglalabasang korupsyon sa Pilipinas. Of course, nakaka-insulto siya. Nakakagalit, nakaka-insulto. Kasi isipin mo, kami dito halos, like ako, I work 7 days a week. 2 ang work ko, every day. At ganun lang nangyari nang kinupuntahan ng pera namin sa Pilipinas. Nakakagalit. Nakakagalit. Sobrang nakakagalit.
Ang administrasyon ngayon, BBM alias Bangag administrasyon. Pinabayaan mo yung si Martin Romualdez, si crocodile ng Pilipinas na gawin nyo kung ano yung gusto niya. Na dapat na ikaw mismo, alam mo na yung katauhan mo. Nangungurakot, tagnanakaw na ng pera. Pero wala kang nagawa kasi nga bangag ka. Galit na galit kami. Lahat ng tao na nakikita mo sa likod ko, galit yan lahat sa'yo. Dahil wala kang magandang ginawa sa bansa natin. Ganun ka sa amin. Bilang isang OFW na nakatira dito sa Japan, kita mo to, 0 point ka sa amin. Bitlog ka kumbaga. Wala kang makukuha ang boto sa susunod na eleksyon.
Despite the challenges and sacrifices of working abroad, OFWs continue to hope that someone will rise to lead a nation with integrity and genuine concern for the people.
So yung corruption sa Pilipinas, it's so unfair, especially for us OFWs kasi we're sending monies. Ako actually, in a month, nagpapadala ko 3 times. Ngayon, kukurakutin lang and then they are spending for their personal things. Ang mamahal na mga gamit. Samantalang yung mga Pilipino naghihirap sa abroad. Maraming mga Pilipinong naghihirap sa Pilipinas tapos sila buhay marangya. So I believe the best thing is that the President should act. Dahil syempre, we know yung sa DPWH, tapos kay Martin Romualdez, Zaldico, what happened? Walang sinabi ang presidente. So ikaw ang presidente, dapat ikaw talaga ang mag-manage, ikaw talaga maghanap ng solusyon. Paano solusyonan ang korupsyon? Kung wala kang solusyon dyan, what's your point? Naging presidente ka, umalis ka.
Yung sistema natin, lalo na yung sistema natin, yung malalaking tao na nasa sa likod niyan, talagang kailangan silang pababain at ikulong. Yun lang naman talaga eh. Hindi lang yung nasa baba, yung mga contractor, kung ano. Yung pinakagusto talaga naming mangyari is yung nasa likod niyan, behind sa korupsyon na nangyayari sa Pilipinas na malalaking tao. Congressman Zaldico at si Martin Romualdez.
During the event, Senator Robin Padilla extended his gratitude to the OFWs, whom he referred to as the country's new heroes, for their unwavering hard work, patriotism, and support for the nation.
Nagpapasalamat tayo sa Panginoon Diyos. Pangalawa, sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan na hindi nakakalimot sa pagmamahal nila sa bayan. Siyempre, sa ating pinakamamahal ng ating Tatay Digong. Alam nyo, napakaganda po ng mensahe ng ating pangalawang Pangulo na kung hindi po dahil sa inyo, talaga pong malulungkot ang bayan natin. Kasi wala naman po tayong export kundi tao. At yan po ay kayo. At kayo po ang bumubuhay sa ating ekonomiya. Nung panahon ko po sa MoneyGram, nasa $35 billion ang ipinapasok ng ating mga OFW. Wala pong humpay yan. Kayo po ang mga totoong bayani ng bayan. Kaya kung ang atin pong pangalawang Pangulo ay umiikot sa iba't ibang bansa at pumupunta sa inyo, ito po'y paglilingkod. Hindi po siya naglalakwatsa. Siya po ay bumibisita, siya po ay naglilingkod, siya po ay nagbibigay ng kanyang kapangyarihan para kayo po ay mabisita at mabigyan ng kahalagahan.
Coinciding with these gatherings in Japan was the 53rd anniversary of the declaration of martial law in the Philippines, a day marked by massive protests nationwide, where Filipinos took to the streets to denounce corruption and abuse of power. Even while working overseas, Filipinos remain vigilant and deeply concerned about the state of the nation. Their voices echo a powerful reminder: corruption in the Philippines is not just a local issue. It affects every Filipino, both at home and abroad. who hopes for honesty and effective governance. Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, I'm Hector Kikuzaki, your global citizen correspondent, SMNI News.
Where was President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as massive anti-corruption protests erupted on Sunday? Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin answered these questions, while also voicing the palace's dismay over the violence that broke out in Mendiola and Ayala Bridge. Jason Rubrico reports.
Tension flared in Mendiola and Ayala Bridge in Manila amid large-scale demonstrations against corruption. A trailer truck was set on fire by a group of youths at the foot of Ayala Bridge, while public property, including a traffic light, was destroyed in Mendiola. Some protesters hurled large stones, broken bottles, and plastic containers at policemen. As a security measure, barriers were installed at the gates of Malacanang Palace.
Yung barriers were only precautionary, you know. Alam mo naman that Malacanang is always a target. And we do not like to be unready about anything.
According to Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, the situation inside Malacanang has since returned to normal. He clarified that while the palace respects the constitutional right to protest, President Marcos does not condone violent demonstrations, especially when public property is destroyed.
Sayang lang at may mga elements na hindi namin inaasahan nagiging violent, ano? Yung walang sense yung nakita namin sa video na pati yung public properties, yung mga traffic lights, mga ganun. Bakit mo sisirain yun? Wala namang saysay. It is not related to the purpose of the rally.
The official also condemned the assault by some protesters against policemen.
Nagulat lang kami nung pati yung pulis na sinaktan, hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit ganon. Yung mga pulis ay nandun lamang, very passive sila, maximum tolerance ang sinusunod. Tapos may mga 5 yata yung nakita ko dun sa YouTube na kawawa yung policeman. Binugbog. Parang hindi ko alam kung mga tao yung mga gumawa niyan eh. Tapos may sinunog pa na truck. Ano bang kabuluhan yan sa pagrarally? Hindi naman dapat na mangyari yan. Tapos may mga nakabonet, nakamaskara. Siguro yan may plano silang masama. But we were ready for them.
Executive Secretary Bersamin assured the authorities are now investigating those behind the chaos in Mendiola and Ayala Bridge. But amid the unrest, many asked where was President Marcos Jr.
We do not divulge kung saan siya, but I am sure that he was just there. He was also monitoring the rally because he was also interested to know what would happen if there were anything that would happen.
In a separate press briefing, Interior Secretary John Vic Remulla confirmed that he was in constant communication with the President almost every 20 minutes to assess the situation.
As of 11 a.m. yesterday, the President and I were in touch constantly every 20 minutes to assess the situation. He was in a secure facility inside the compound, monitoring every single step. At approximately 2 p.m., he called me and asked me to personally assess the threat level that was going on in Ayala Bridge.
Remulla emphasized that the President gave clear instructions for the police to exercise maximum tolerance toward the protesters.
And with maximum tolerance, they only had their riot gear and no firearms. I repeat, the approximately 4,000 policemen deployed to contain the rally had no firearms on them, except for the SWAT group that was in the vicinity.
Over 200 individuals were arrested, while 95 policemen were injured, some of whom required serious medical attention. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
Coming up, nature's wrath leaves devastation. Typhoon Mirasol and Super Typhoon Nando batter homes, forcing thousands to evacuate across northern Luzon. More news when Newsline World returns.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito. Pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulong at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, saka palalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity.
Malacanang has suspended government work and classes at all levels in Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur today, September 23, 2025, as Super Typhoon Nando threatens to bring heavy rains across northern Luzon. According to Memorandum Circular Number 98, signed by Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, class suspensions also apply to Abra, Apayao, Batanes, Benguet, Cagayan, and La Union, following recommendations from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Essential government agencies tasked with delivering basic health and emergency services will remain operational to ensure continued service. Other government offices may implement alternative work agreements in line with existing rules and regulations. Local chief executives have been given the authority to suspend work in classes in their respective areas based on prevailing local conditions. Private companies, on the other hand, are allowed to decide independently whether to suspend operations. The Philippines Weather Agency Pag-asa continues to monitor Super Typhoon Nando, warning of widespread rains, flooding, and landslides in affected areas. Several houses have been reported damaged in various parts of the country following the onslaught of Typhoon Mirasol, also known as Tropical Storm Mitag internationally, and the effects of the southwest monsoon. According to the Department of Social Welfare and Development, meanwhile, over 2,000 personnel of the Philippine National Police have already been deployed to regions affected by Super Typhoon Nando. Roslyn Catarong reports.
2 houses in Mountain Province and 7 in Aurora were reported as partially damaged. This was according to Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao, spokesperson of the Department of Social Welfare and Development on Monday. In Region 6, particularly in the provinces of Capiz and Iloilo, several houses were totally damaged. In Zamboanga City, which was severely affected by flooding caused by the southwest monsoon, 1 house was totally damaged and 3 others were partially damaged. ASEC Dumlao said that the DSWD continues to monitor houses that may be further damaged due to another adverse weather. The Super Typhoon Nando, internationally known as Gaza.
There are other interventions that we're looking at, one of which is the provision of emergency cash transfers para masuportahan po yung early recovery ng mga kababayan po natin na maapektuhan at masisira nga po yung kanila pong mga tahanan.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police immediately activated their critical incident monitoring team in preparation for the impact of Super Typhoon Nando. According to Brigadier General Randolph Tuanyo, head of the PNP Public Information Office, all regional directors in Regions 1, 2, 3, and Region 9, also the Cordillera Administrative Region, have been mobilized to coordinate with their respective local disaster risk reduction and management offices. This measure aims to ensure a swift response to the possible effects of the typhoon. Tuanyo added that 2017 PNP personnel have been deployed in the mentioned regions to assist in rescue operations, relief distribution, and maintaining order and security in areas likely to be affected.
Una po, ang kautusan po ng ating Chief PNP base po doon sa ating manual ay yung pong local coordinations ng mga regional directors natin, ng ating mga chief of police, sa kanilang local government unit, search and rescue operations kung kakailanganin. Kasama din dyan, Sir Joey, yung pagtatalaga natin ng ating mga membro ng PNP sa mga evacuation centers.
For God and for my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Roslyn Catarong, SMNI News.
Residents rushed to supermarkets and wet markets on Monday as Super Typhoon Gaza drew near, leaving shelves emptied and long queues at checkout. Shopkeepers prepared by taping windows, laying sandbags, and securing emergency supplies. Ms. Yung, a bakery owner, observed that the typhoon appeared more intense than previous storms, noting that demand was so hybrid sold out as soon as it became out of the oven.
搶購即係比平時打風就誇張啲咯。係啊，因為平時打風都冇咁誇張嘅啫。我哋咁賣包嗰日出都出唔切啦，出完跟住轉頭已經就即係清晒咯。11點零鐘就開始就人多啲咯。係啊，最受歡迎嘅都係方包啦、瑞士卷嗰啲啦。係啊，其他就係嗰啲雞尾包啊、菠蘿包啊嗰啲咯。
Authorities warned of heavy rain, flooding, landslide, and powerful winds, urging residents to remain indoors and avoid unnecessary travel. Schools were suspended and flights canceled ahead of the storm, which is expected to hit early Wednesday. Malacanang expressed confidence that the Philippines will continue to draw investors despite recent corruption allegations involving infrastructure projects. Wrestling Katarong reports.
Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro stated that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s firm stand against corruption strengthens public trust in the government's dedication to transparency and accountability, which in turn is expected to enhance investor confidence. She added that Marcos Jr. has openly addressed potential abuses in government funds, earning respect from investors for his anti-corruption campaign. Castro also pointed out that the president is unique among leaders today for initiating investigations into widespread anomalies within his own administration's infrastructure projects. However, several groups question President Marcos Jr.'s anti-corruption efforts, saying persistent corruption allegations continue to undermine public trust and investor confidence. Economist Dr. Michael Batu said that the investigations into anomalous flood control projects by the Marcos Jr. administration may be merely for show. According to him, it is clear that the administration is avoiding the issue, especially when allies of the president are involved. Batu also pointed out that the administration is incapable of eradicating corruption because it has a history of it itself. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Wrestling Katarong, SMNI News.
As the Christmas season approaches, not only do carolers and holiday multiply, but so do scammers. Authorities are once again warning the public this bear months to stay vigilant, especially those who are turning and generous. Common targets are scammers. Let's find out more about this with Jason Rubrico.
The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, or CICC, notes that scams are once again on the rise during the bear months. CICC Executive Director Undersecretary Aboy Paraiso says one of the most prevalent schemes this season is the so-called love scam.
Dapat sa mga kababayan natin hindi maging marupok ngayong bear months kasi ngayong bear months uso yung mga love scams. Kasi alam ng mga scammers medyo pag mga ganitong holidays naghanap tayo ng mga companionship, yung mga masyadong nag-iisa sa buhay.
Paraiso added that scammers now use artificial intelligence and deep fakes to impersonate foreigners. Victims of these schemes usually fall within the 40 to 60 age group. He also reminded the public not to be easily enticed by large holiday discounts, another common tactic used by scammers. Beyond love and discount scams, Gogolook has also monitored other schemes, particularly loan-related scams.
If I would look at historically, in our data, tayong mga Pinoy kasi, mahilig tayong mag-avail ng loans, di ba? So, we are still seeing a lot, when we release the last quarter data, na marami pa rin na scams that are actually loan-related scams.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police Anti-Cybercrime Group emphasized that scammers no longer choose their victims. They target people from all walks of life.
All walks of life are being victimized, no? Hindi na natin masabi na yung medyo mga nasa lower bracket ng ating community yung mga nabibiktima. But right now, all walks of life are being victimized. Sa ating mga kababayan, alam naman natin, it's already bear months. Wag na tayo magpapaloko.
Alongside the start of the holiday season, Gogolook launched an upgraded version of its Who's Call anti-scam app.
This new Who's Call can cover not only traditional call and SMS scam, to extend to other scams such as social media scam, or any messaging apps scam, or if someone accidentally click suspicious link, we can also protect people from those scams as well.
The updated version features advanced AI scam protection and introduces a growth-driven anti-scam community, enabling Filipinos to actively participate in the fight against online fraud by reporting scams and earning rewards for their contributions. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
When we come back, in Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum calls Gaza violence genocide and demands global recognition of Palestine. And new chapter of Japan. The ruling party names 5 contenders in the race to replace Prime Minister Ishiba. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. Pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, panglutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Ikaw ba ay namomroblema sa taas ng electric bill buwan-buwan? Huwag mag-alala, narito ang ilang paraan upang makatipid sa kuryente. Patayin ang mga ilaw at appliances kapag hindi ginagamit. Sa halip ay gumamit ng natural na liwanag upang makatipid sa kuryente. Tanggalin sa saksakan ang mga appliances kung hindi ginagamit. Iwasan paggamit ng maraming appliances ng sabay-sabay. Gumamit ng LED bulbs. Ito ay mas tipid sa kuryente kumpara sa mga incandescent at fluorescent bulbs. Regular na linisin ang mga appliances tulad ng electric fan, aircon vents at refrigerator. Magkaroon ng takdang araw sa isang linggo sa pamamalansya at paglalaba. Gumamit ng energy-efficient appliances. Tandaan, maging wais sa paggamit ng kuryente upang makatipid para mas gumaan ang buhay. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
And we're back. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has called for an end to what she described as genocide in Gaza and reaffirmed support for a two-state solution, while also announcing new diplomatic and domestic measures during a press briefing in Mexico City. More of this from Jane Cunita.
During her press conference in Mexico City National Palace on September 22, Sheinbaum declared that Mexico stands with the international community in demanding an end to the genocide in Gaza. She emphasized that Foreign Secretary Juan Ramon de la Fuente will carry this official message of peace to the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Sheinbaum noted that her administration officially recognized the State of Palestine and formally accredited Ambassador Nadia Rashid on March 21, 2025, the first time Mexico accepted full ambassadorial credentials from Palestine. She reiterated support for a two-state solution, stating that there is no justification for harm to civilian populations. The president also noted Mexico's willingness to host children orphaned by the conflict in Gaza, a proposal earlier raised in the Senate.
Y todo el posicionamiento de acuerdo con la comunidad internacional de que pare este genocidio en Gaza. Esa es nuestra posición. Y por supuesto, el reconocimiento de los dos estados, el Estado de Israel y el Estado palestino, y que no puede haber una agresión a la población civil como la que está habiendo.
By reaffirming recognition of Palestine and urging an end to the conflict in Gaza, Mexico aligns itself with international efforts, seeking a negotiated settlement and greater protection for civilians in the region. This has been Jane Cunita, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
France will now formally recognize as Palestinian state. He joins a group of European nations declaring support for Palestinian statehood and what they call a step toward peace. This report.
At the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, French President Emmanuel Macron made a landmark announcement.
Je déclare que la France reconnaît aujourd'hui l'État de Palestine. Cette reconnaissance est une manière d'affirmer que le peuple palestinien n'est pas un peuple en trop, qu'il est au contraire ce peuple qui ne dit jamais adieu à rien. Nous sommes convaincus que cette reconnaissance est la solution qui seule permettra la paix pour Israël.
Their decision follows similar moves by the United Kingdom, Canada, Portugal, and Australia, which formally recognized Palestine just a day earlier. The additional recognition adds momentum to a global push for Palestinian statehood. As of April this year, 147 of the UN's 193 member states had already formally recognized Palestine. Last year, Spain, Norway, and Ireland did the same, with Madrid also sanctioning Israel over its war in Gaza. With France and its partners now joining the list, more Western states are signaling that recognition of Palestinian statehood, believing that this move is an essential step toward reviving hopes of a two-state solution.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva delivered a powerful speech at the United Nations, condemning Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide and urging the recognition of Palestinian statehood. Lula said the Israel-Palestine conflict exemplifies the failures of multilateralism and the dangers of the UN veto system. He stressed that nothing justifies the scale of destruction and suffering inflicted on civilians in Gaza. He also confirmed Brazil's decision to support South Africa's genocide case against Israel and the International Court of Justice, while also condemning Hamas terrorist attacks.
O conflito entre Israel e Palestina é símbolo maior dos obstáculos enfrentados pelo multilateralismo. Ele mostra que a tirania do veto sabota a própria razão de ser da ONU.
Lula described the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as catastrophic, highlighting tens of thousands of children killed or injured, homes destroyed, and widespread hunger. He warned that the crisis threatens not only lives but also the dream of Palestinian nationhood.
Não há palavra mais apropriada para descrever o que está ocorrendo em Gaza do que genocídio. Por isso, o Brasil decidiu tornar-se parte do caso apresentado pela África do Sul à Corte Internacional de Justiça. Os atos terroristas cometidos pelo Hamas são inaceitáveis. O Brasil foi enfático ao condená-los. Mas o direito de defesa não autoriza a matança indiscriminada de civis.
For the second straight day, young Peruvians and allied groups filed Plaza San Martin in Lima, denouncing a new pension reform law they say favors private funds and worsens inequality. Jason Rubrico will give us more details.
Demonstrators clashed with riot police, setting banners and posters on fire, while officers responded with tear gas and pellet shots. Bystanders were also caught in the chaos.
Solamente por pasar por el lado de los policías me empezaron a corretear. Obviamente me puse yo, hice fuerza y me empezaron a dar con perdigones, empezaron a disparar, lacrimógenas, todo.
The law requires all Peruvians over 18 to enroll either in the Office of Pension Normalization or in a private pension fund administrator. Critics argued the measure burdens workers in a country where more than 70% of employment is informal. Protesters accused the government and Congress of siding with big business at the expense of ordinary citizens.
El pueblo, de forma democrática y pacífica, viene a manifestarse desde todo el país por el centro de la ciudad y la policía solo responde con bombas, con gases lacrimógenos y sin ningún sentido de común, porque hay niños, hay gente que simplemente está transitando, señores de la tercera edad, y ellos pues se dedican a de forma matonesca reprimir con toda la violencia que ha caracterizado a este gobierno que se ha llevado tantas vidas.
Gen Z makes up 21% of Peru's population, and their mobilization is becoming a driving force in the country's growing discontent with President Dina Boluarte's government. Reporting for Newsline World, I am Jason Rubrico, SM9 News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow is prepared to extend the New START nuclear treaty for 1 year after it expires next year. He warned that letting the agreement lapse would be a major mistake. Paul Montibon has the details.
At a meeting with Russia's Security Council on Monday, President Vladimir Putin said Moscow is willing to continue observing the limits of the New START treaty for an additional year beyond its February 5, 2026 expiration. The agreement, signed in 2010, is the last remaining arms control deal between the US and Russia, the two countries holding the world's largest nuclear arsenals. This agreement limits the number of strategic nuclear warheads deployed by the United States and Russia to a maximum of 1,550. It also limits the number of nuclear-capable heavy bombers as well as launchers to 800. Both sides would also have a mutual inspection and notification. Putin warned that abandoning it would be a mistaken short-sighted step and undermine global stability, as well as the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. According to Putin, this system of Soviet American and Russian American agreements on nuclear, missile, and strategic defensive arms control was almost completely dismantled. Putin added that Russia's offer is conditional. Moscow will only continue its self-imposed limits if Washington does the same. He instructed Russian agencies to closely monitor U.S. nuclear forces and missile defense developments, promising a direct response to any move that threatens strategic stability. The White House responded to Putin's offer.
The president is aware of this offer extended by President Putin, and I'll let him comment on it later. I think it sounds pretty good, but he wants to make some comments on that himself, and I will let him do that.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SM9 News.
Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party is entering a new political chapter. After the resignation of Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, the party has introduced 5 contenders vying for its top post, a race that will determine not only the next LDP leader but also Japan's next Prime Minister. Here's Diana Flores for the details.
Japan's Liberal Democratic Party recently unveiled 5 contenders to succeed outgoing Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who stepped down after recent electoral defeat. The candidates are former Economic Security Ministers Takayuki Kobayashi and Sanae Takaichi, former LDP Secretary General Toshimitsu Motegi, Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi, and Agricultural Minister Shinjiro Koizumi.
大切にこのされているところにそういう日本人の気持ちを踏みにじって喜ぶ人が外国から来るようなら何かをしないといけません。私高市早苗日本をかけがえのない国にしてきた、この古来の伝統を守るために体を張ります。
組織の上に立つんではなくて逆風の中で先頭に立ってその逆風を受け止め日本を前に進めたい。
頑張れば報われるという実感を現役世代がそう思えるような日本を作ります。新たな日本の国づくり、その先頭にどうか私小林孝之を立たせていただきたい。
うまく政策をつなぎ合わせて、そしてうまく運営していけばまだまだ日本はやれる、そんな強い気持ちで先頭に立ってこの国の舵取りをさせていただきたい。
皆さん共に国民の声を聞き、国民の不安に向き合い、そして国民の求める安全と安心を実現する政党として自民党を立て直していこうではありませんか。
Opinion polls place Takaichi 64 and Koizumi 44 as the front runners. Takaichi vowed to safeguard Japan's heritage, while Koizumi pledged reforms within the party and society where hard work is rewarded. The leadership contest will be determined by 590 votes, split evenly between lawmakers and grassroots members. If no candidate wins an outright majority, a runoff will decide the new leader. The election is set for October 4, and with the LDP's coalition with Kumeito, the winner is expected to become Japan's next prime minister. Ishiba resigned after the LDP lost its lower house majority in the 2024 general election and failed to regain control of the upper house in July 2025. Diana Flores, your Global Citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is willing to engage in dialogue with the United States if Washington abandons its demand for Pyongyang to give up nuclear weapons. Let's find out more about this with Justine Nazario.
Speaking at the 13th session of the Supreme People's Assembly, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stated there would be no reason not to sit down with the U.S. if it sought peaceful coexistence based on recognition of reality. At the same time, he ruled out surrendering nuclear arms, warning that the world has already witnessed the consequences for countries that disarmed. Kim also addressed international sanctions, describing them as a lesson that had strengthened his country. He ruled out negotiations that involved trading concessions for sanctions relief, calling such talks unacceptable for eternity. His remarks came after U.S. President Donald Trump expressed interest in meeting Kim later this year, possibly around the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit during talks with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. Trump and Kim previously held 3 meetings during Trump's first term, including their 2018 Singapore Summit and their 2019 Hanoi meeting. This is Justine Nazario, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Afghan citizens in Kabul have condemned U.S. President Donald Trump's comments about regaining control of Bagram Air Base, calling the idea a violation of sovereignty and international law. U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed that America was talking to Afghanistan to secure the return of the Bagram Air Base.
We want it back, and we want it back soon, right away. And if they don't do it, you're going to find out what I'm saying.
This drew reaction to Afghan locals, saying that the move would be seen as aggression against them. One resident, Ashif Zaman, said it would bring very bad consequences for Trump, while another called the remarks condemnable, saying they go against Afghanistan's territorial integrity, Islam, and international principles.
افغانستان باندې برید وکړي یا باګرام نیول غواړي نو دا خو یو ځل باید ټرمپ دا کار ونه کړي ځکه دا د ټولو نړیوالو اصولو مخالفت ده او یو داسې تیاری د افغانستان باندې سیده به که څنګه دی وایي دا به ټرمپ ته بیا بدې پایلې ولري ټرمپ په افغانستان باندې برید کړی یو ټرمپ نه و او سل ټرمپ نور ورسره و شل کاله د مخالفت کې افغان ولس وجنګېدو او ازادي ترې واخیسته نو که بیا هم ټرمپ دا کار کوي او د ټولو نړیوالو اصولو مخالفت کوي نو ټرمپ ته به دا داسې بدې پایلې ولري تر شل کلن انقلاب به ډېرې خطرناکې.
The response followed a statement by Afghan Army Chief of Staff, who on Sunday denied Trump's claims that talks were underway to return the base to U.S. control.
در این اواخر سر و صداهایی از طرف بعضی‌ها گویا بالا میشد که ما با امارت اسلامی افغانستان به خاطر باز پس گرفتن میدان هوایی بگرام داخل گفتگو و مذاکره هستیم و گویا تعامل میکنیم و از راه زور نتونستیم از راه تعامل سیاسی میخواهیم که ما پس این منطقه را به دست بیاوریم. این را برای هموطنای عزیز خود برای مردم افغانستان برای مردم مسلمان افغانستان این را ما اطمینان میدیم که این که در برابر خاکمان یک وجب خاکمان یک بلیست خاکمان با کسی تعامل شود این چیزی است که هیچ امکان نداره و امکان پذیر نیست. ما ضرورت به این نداریم او کسایی که خارجی ها را آوردند اینجا بالای خودشان حاکم ساختند و میخواستند که با زوری از اینجا حکومت بکنند اونا ترسو بزدل بودند اونا از ترسشان به کفار پناه برده بودند. ما با اتکا به الله بزرگ از هیچ کسی از هیچ زورگو و قلدری نمی ترسیم و این ثابت هم ساختیم در 20 سال جهاد علیه اشغال علیه امریکا و متحدینش این ما ثابت ساختیم که هیچگاه نمی ترسیم.
Trump had earlier warned that bad things will happen if Afghanistan refused, citing Bagram's strategic location. In sports, after years of setbacks and doubts, Osman Dembele has finally reached the pinnacle of football, winning this year's Ballon d'Or after leading Paris Saint-Germain to a historic treble, while Liverpool manager Arne Slot urged his side to involve. More of this with Carlo de la Peña.
Ousmane Dembele has finally silenced the doubts, winning 2025 Ballon d'Or after a record-breaking season with Paris Saint-Germain. The 28-year-old forward delivered 35 goals and 14 assists, leading PSG to a Ligue 1, Coupe de France, and Champions League treble, and reaching the Club World Cup final. Once plagued by injuries and off-field issues at Barcelona, Dembele transformed his game and lifestyle, thriving under Luis Enrique's false nine system after Kylian Mbappe's move to Real Madrid. With 51 goal contributions, more than double his previous best, Dembele rose above Salah, Mbappe, and Barcelona's young stars to be recognized as the world's top player. Meanwhile, the Reds remain the only team with a 100% record after 5 matches, sitting top of the table with 15 points. First half goals from Ryan Gravenberch and Hugo Ekitike sealed the win at Anfield, though Everton threatened a late comeback. Slot praised the joy-to-watch first half, singling out Gravenberch for his all-around display. The midfielder's freedom to push forward has transformed Liverpool's play, but it also forces the coach to manage a delicate mix in midfield alongside Dominic Szoboszlai and Alexis McAllister. The challenge grows with the arrival of Florian Wirtz, whose creative flair has yet to fully click in the system, and the striking battle between Ekitike and £125 million summer signing Alexander Isak. Slot acknowledged the luxury and difficulty of having world-class options across the pitch, saying every decision will be about timing and balance. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
For today's showbiz news, sometimes even superheroes need a break. That's exactly what happened to Spider-Man star Tom Holland, who is now taking time off from production after suffering a concussion while filming a stunt. Meanwhile, after the suspension of his show due to comments about Charlie Kirk's death, Jimmy Kimmel's show is set to return. But some broadcasting groups continue to preempt the show for several reasons. All abroad from Showbiz Updates with Stella Maris.
Sometimes, even superheroes need a break, just like Spider-Man star Tom Holland, who suffered a mild concussion while filming a stunt for Brand New Day at Leavesden Studios in Watford, England. After the accident, the actor was immediately taken to the hospital, and due to injury he sustained, the actor will temporarily take a break from taping to fully recover. The 29-year-old actor first appeared as Spider-Man in the 2016 film Captain America: Civil War. At just 19 years old, he brought youthful energy to the role of awkward teen Peter Parker. Trained in gymnastics and dance, he was able to perform many of his own stunts. Holland rose to fame in MCU, starring in Spider-Man: Homecoming in 2017, Far From Home in 2019, and No Way Home in 2021, as well as Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. His performance became a fan favorite, and No Way Home was a massive hit, reuniting previous Spider-Man. He's currently filming Spider-Man Brand New Day, set to release in July 2026, which will mark Holland's fourth starring role as the favorite superhero. Zendaya will return as Michelle Jones Watson, along with Jacob Batalon reprising his role as Ned Leeds, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, John Bernthal as Punisher, and Michael Mando as Scorpion. Fresh characters will also join Spider-Man Brand New Day, bringing new energy and exciting storylines to the Marvel Universe. These additions promise to expand the Spider-Man world and introduce unexpected twists for fans to look forward to. Viewers expressed widespread delight and enthusiasm following the return of Jimmy Kimmel's show, with many praising the program's revival across various platforms. After a period of suspension following controversial comments made by Jimmy Kimmel about the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, Disney confirmed on Monday that Jimmy Kimmel Live is scheduled to return on its regular time slot on Tuesday. The late-night talk show, known for its celebrity interviews and comedic sketches, will once again be broadcast on ABC affiliates. Despite the announcement, Sinclair Broadcast Group has declared it will maintain its decision to preempt the show in certain markets. The reasons for the ongoing preemptions have not been officially clarified. Industry watchers speculate that local programming choices and previous controversies may play a role. Fans of the show hoping for a nationwide return may face inconsistent availability depending on their local broadcasters. In support of the comedian, more than 400 artists, including actors, musicians, writers, and directors, have signed an open letter organized by the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, defending late-night host Jimmy Kimmel following his indefinite suspension by ABC. The letter condemns what many see as government pressure leading to shows removal as a serious threat to the freedom of speech. Prominent names such as Tom Hanks, Jennifer Aniston, Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, Pedro Pascal, and Olivia Rodrigo joined in the protest. And that's for today's Showbiz News. This is Stella Maris, your global citizen correspondent, bringing you the show-buzzing entertainment news and updates for Newsline World.
In Quintana Roo, Mexico, the age-old craft of harvesting natural chewing gum still thrives. For more than 40 years, Federico Can has worked as a chiclero scaling 30-meter chicozapote trees to collect the latex used in making gum.
Que lo que me puede mantener. Porque nosotros somos pequeños cuando se fallece mi padre y pues yo tengo que buscar la vida. Entonces yo dejé la escuela. Pues hay que luchar la vida para vivir, para que podamos crecer.
The risky job requires climbing with spikes and ropes, carving careful cuts into the bark so the sap can flow without harming the tree. Once gathered, the latex is boiled, thickened, and shaped into blocks, later processed with flavor and sugar. But climate change is making the work harder. Despite the challenges, chewing gum production continues to sustain rural families, protect forests, and draw ecotourists eager to witness the tradition that links Mexico's jungle to the world's chewing gum. And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the sun. Guard your mind, soul, and heart, that they will remain upright in the sight of God. And as we keep track on the countdown, there's only 93 days left before Christmas. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Prince Tripoli. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.